So you got to keep those feelings inside of you, okay? Well, what I did to release those feelings was I wrote.
The Guitar Man, the untold story of Jerry Reed's grit, glory, and genius. I thought my picking would set him on fire, but nobody wanted to hire a guitar man. Long before audiences came to know him as the fast-talking sidekick in Smokey and the Bandit, Jerry Reed was already carving out a name for himself in the annals of American music. Known as the Guitar Man, Reed wasn't just another country crooner. He was a phenomenon, a lightning bolt of talent who sang, acted, and played guitar with a level of artistry that continues to inspire generations. Today, his contributions are finally getting the recognition they deserve. From foster care to the Grand Ole Opry, from factory floors to Grammy stages, Jerry Reed's journey wasn't just about music. It was about survival, perseverance, and soul. A child of the cotton mills. Born March 20th, 1937 in Atlanta, Georgia, Jerry Reed Hubbard was the second child of Robert and Cynthia Hubbard, two blue-collar workers barely scraping by in a local cotton mill. But economic hardship was just the beginning. When Jerry was only 4 months old, his parents' rocky marriage finally crumbled. With no clear custody agreement, the children were swept into a turbulent system. Foster homes, orphanages, one placement after another. Though both of his parents were alive, Jerry spent much of his childhood living like an orphan. By the age of 7, he had shuffled between more than a half-dozen homes across Georgia. It was a childhood filled with instability, but also one that forged the resilience that would later define him. And through it all, there was music. A boy with a dream, a hairbrush, and a stage made of firewood music wasn't a luxury in the Reed household. It was a lifeline. His mother, Cynthia, recognized early on that her son had a spark, a natural-born performer. So, even as she remarried and struggled to keep food on the table, she encouraged his dream. Her new husband, Hubert Howard, provided some stability. By 1944, Jerry and his sister were back at home full-time. Financial security remained elusive, but love, finally, was not. It was during these years that Jerry Reed became Jerry Reed. In the evenings, the 6-year-old would grab his mother's hairbrush and stand on a stack of stove wood in the backyard, pretending it was the Grand Ole Opry stage. He'd belt out songs from the radio, tapping his feet to imaginary applause. In a 1979 interview, Reed remembered those early days. "When I was a kid of 6 or 7, I used to get up on the stove wood pile for a stage and put on the wildest show. I'd sit beside the radio and play rhythm on a hairbrush. That was my Grand Ole Opry." For Jerry, those moments weren't just pretend. They were prophecy, from radio daydreams to Nashville nights. Despite the hardships, Reed's love for music never waned. If anything, it grew louder. His childhood wasn't marked by toys or trips, but by rhythms, melodies, and the dream of Nashville. Rockmart, Georgia, where his grandparents lived, became a second home and a vital source of inspiration. Whenever Jerry visited, he'd run barefoot through the fields with a battered guitar and tell anyone who would listen, "I'm gonna be a star one day." And he meant it. Reed didn't just want to be good, he wanted to be unforgettable. He knew early on that his ticket out of poverty wasn't school or sports. It was 6 strings and a beat that wouldn't let go. What he lacked in money, he made up for in charisma. What he didn't have in training, he made up for with feel. Jerry Reed didn't just play the guitar. He attacked it, caressed it, bent it to his will, and soon others started to notice. The legacy he left behind. Though his rise to fame took time, and though demons like addiction would haunt him throughout his life, Jerry Reed's place in music history is secure. He would go on to win 3 Grammy Awards, collaborate with legends like Chet Atkins, and appear in over a dozen films. His music blended humor with heartbreak, technique with raw emotion, and his signature finger-picking style, still studied and imitated today. But behind the showmanship was always the little boy with the hairbrush, standing on a pile of wood, dreaming big. A guitar, a nickel, and a dream. Jerry Reed's relentless rise. Jerry Reed didn't need a backup plan. While most young people are nudged toward something safe, Reed never entertained the idea. He was all in, even if that meant playing bars, truck stops, or roadside diners. The stage, any stage, was enough. And if that door wouldn't open, he'd burn it down. Long-haired redneck, the Outlaw's manifesto. In 1976, Coe dropped what would become his most defining album to date, Long-Haired Redneck. It wasn't just an album, it was a manifesto. The title track painted Coe as a man trapped between two incompatible worlds, too country for rock and roll, too wild for country traditionalists, a lyrical middle finger to anyone trying to put him in a box. The song's chorus became an anthem. Country DJs knows that I'm an outlaw. They'd never come to see me in this dive. But fans did come. Outsiders, bikers, misfits, and broken-hearted rebels, the ones Nashville ignored, found a home in Coe's lyrics. He was writing for them, singing with them, bleeding like them. But for all his success among the fringe, Coe wasn't content to coast. He wanted to go further. When Outlaw turned underground, the controversial descent. As the 1970s closed out, Coe's career veered sharply into controversy. Not the garden variety kind, real, nuclear-grade scandal. In an effort to speak even more unfiltered truths, or perhaps simply to provoke, Coe released two infamous albums, Nothing Sacred, 1978, Underground Album, 1982. These weren't studio-polished LPs backed by Columbia Records. These were raw, self-released records sold through biker magazines and underground distributors. They were banned from retail stores, blacklisted from radio, and disavowed by country radio gatekeepers. And the content? Brutal. Both albums featured explicit language, violent imagery, racially and sexually offensive lyrics, and an uncompromising tone that left critics and fans stunned. These weren't outlaw ballads. These were grenades thrown at the very industry Coe claimed had abandoned him. The backlash was swift and loud. Critics labeled him racist, misogynistic, deliberately offensive, destructive to the genre he once helped elevate. Journalists condemned the albums. Music stores refused to stock them. Nashville turned its back harder than ever before. Coe's response: I'm not here to make you comfortable. David Allan Coe never apologized. He didn't retract. He didn't explain. Instead, he doubled down, claiming that the albums weren't meant to glorify hate, but to reflect an unvarnished truth of the world he'd lived in. The prisons, the back alleys, the bars, the betrayals. I'm not a preacher, he once said. I'm a storyteller. Some of those stories ain't pretty. He argued that country music had always been about pain, loss, and the underbelly of American life, and his music just happened to sit at the very bottom of that underbelly. For some, that explanation wasn't enough. For others, it was the reason they followed him. Up next. In the next chapter, we explore the legacy Coe tried to build in the 1980s and 90s, the artists who secretly admired him, the mainstream media's uneasy relationship with his influence, and whether the man behind "Take This Job and Shove It" was ever fully understood. Subscribe, like, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Was David Allan Coe a provocateur, a poet, or a product of the life he never chose? We're not done yet, because his most complicated years were still ahead. The price of honesty. When the outlaw lost his gold, David Allan Coe was never built for mainstream, and he never tried to be. But his truth-telling, gut-punch lyrics were the kind of country music people didn't just listen to, they lived by. So when he refused to tone it down to fit in or to apologize, he didn't lose fans. He gained a following, a real one. Bikers, outcasts, working men who hated their bosses, women who'd heard too many lies, kids with broken homes and busted dreams. These weren't radio audiences. They were survivors. And to them, Coe wasn't a country singer. He was a prophet. His concerts weren't polished showcases. They were spectacles, loud, raucous, raw. The kind of place where you didn't dress up. You showed up to feel something, to scream, to remember, to forget. But back in Nashville, the doors stayed shut. Take this job and the spotlight. Then in 1977, David Allan Coe wrote a song that would shake the working-class world to its core. Take this job and shove it. The ultimate middle finger to bosses everywhere. A blue-collar battle cry. Ironically, the song that made him the voice of every overworked American wasn't sung by him. It was recorded by Johnny Paycheck, and it hit #1. Everyone knew the hook. Few knew the songwriter. Coe finally had a hit, but still stood in the shadows. He didn't care. He said what he needed to say. And for millions of workers clocking into factories and truck stops, he became the soundtrack to their rage. Ghosts, regret, and redemption. If "Take this job and shove it" made them cheer, it was "The Ride" that made them shiver. Released in 1983, the haunting track told the story of a young hitchhiker picked up by the ghost of Hank Williams. Sparse, spectral, and chilling, the song felt like a seance with country music's deepest roots. It was vintage Coe, blending myth with memory, making you wonder if the devil was riding shotgun. A year later came one of his most emotional pieces, She Used to Love Me a Lot, a heartbreak ballad so full of ache it bled through every word. Stripped of bravado, Coe delivered one of his most vulnerable performances, reminding everyone that beneath the tattoos and tank tops, he had a poet's soul, the bankrupt outlaw. But while the music soared, his personal life collapsed. Years of legal trouble, debt, and a chaotic lifestyle caught up with him. Then came the unthinkable. In 1984, Coe was forced to sell the rights to every song he had written prior to that year, including Take This Job and Shove It, for a mere $225,000 in a bankruptcy court settlement. Years of work. His entire legacy, gone. Even worse, he didn't realize the deal had gone through until it was too late. He said so himself. The papers were signed, and I was already broke. While other songwriters enjoyed a steady stream of royalty checks for decades, Coe had cut off his own lifeline. He would never again profit from his biggest hits. The price of refusing to compromise. Some artists go broke chasing dreams. David Allan Coe went broke telling the truth. He never made the money he should have. He never got the radio play his talent deserved. He never received the industry recognition he helped make possible. But he kept going. He kept writing. He kept performing. And he kept telling stories no one else dared to. Because to David Allan Coe, country music wasn't about charts or checks. It was about truth. And if that meant dying broke, but singing honestly, then so be it. Up next. In the next chapter, we'll look at Coe's strange resurgence in the 2000s, his unlikely collaborations with metal bands, his influence on modern rebels like Kid Rock, and the question that still hangs over his legacy. Can you separate the art from the outlaw? If you're still riding with us, hit subscribe, tap the bell, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Did David Allan Coe pay the ultimate price for staying true to himself? Or was he a genius who couldn't get out of his own way? Next episode, the redemption or reckoning of David Allan Coe. The last stand of a true outlaw. David Allan Coe never waited for approval, and he certainly never asked for permission. In an era when country music was being scrubbed clean, when record labels and radio stations were pushing rhinestone polish and safe lyrics, Coe stood in the mud, middle finger raised, guitar slung low, and voice full of scars. He wasn't looking to be loved. He was demanding to be heard, and even after bankruptcy stole the rights to his biggest hits, after Nashville turned its back, after his name became synonymous with controversy, he kept going. Touring wasn't just a career choice, it was a survival mechanism. City after city, dive bar after biker rally. If there was a stage, David Allan Coe was on it, when metal met the outlaw. Just when people thought Coe had nothing left to surprise them, he teamed up with an unlikely partner, Dimebag Darrell, the late guitarist from Pantera. Together they formed Rebel Meets Rebel, a sonic Molotov cocktail of outlaw country and heavy metal. Coe on vocals, Dimebag shredding. The result? A full album recorded between 1999 and 2003, but only released in 2006 after Dimebag's tragic on-stage death. It was loud, it was vulgar, it was thrilling, it was everything mainstream Nashville feared, and everything Coe's cult audience adored. The Kid Rock connection and a different kind of song. But Coe wasn't all rage and rebellion. In one of his most unexpected turns, he teamed up with Kid Rock to record Single Father, a somber, soul-bearing track about raising a child alone. Gone were the rhinestones and rage. What remained was the raw heart of a man who'd lived his lyrics. It wasn't a hit. It was something better. It was real. The legacy in shadows and light. In 2006, Coe appeared in the music video for Johnny Cash's posthumous release, God's Gonna Cut You Down. He stood among legends, Willie Nelson, Keith Richards, Chris Christopherson. But it was Coe, cloaked in black, eyes like burned-out stars, who looked the most like a man already judged by his past. And still, he never blinked. He kept touring, kept writing, refused to retire. By the 2010s, his voice had frayed and his body slowed. But in honky-tonks and county fairs across the South and Midwest, he still showed up, still played The Ride, still sang If That Ain't Country, still lived the outlaw spirit while others just branded it. The blueprint for rebellion. David Allan Coe's legacy can't be summed up with a plaque or a greatest hits album, because it's not just about what he made, it's about what he made possible. He broke open a genre that was starting to close in on itself. He dragged honesty, vulgarity, and vulnerability into country music when it only wanted polish and politeness. Artists like Kid Rock, Hank Williams III, and even Wheeler Walker Jr. owe him a creative debt, not just for the sound, but for the audacity. Without Coe, country music wouldn't have found its rougher edge, its darker truth, its middle finger grit. The final word. David Allan Coe never set out to be just another country star. Fame, radio hits, and industry awards were never the finish line for him. What he craved, what he insisted on, was something far more dangerous: truth. And he delivered it without flinching. Whether it came wrapped in the sorrow of a broken love, the rage of a prison cell, or the rebellion of a working man finally done being stepped on, he sang it raw, unvarnished, and unfiltered. He didn't aim to be smooth. He didn't care to be safe, and he sure as hell wasn't trying to be likable, because Coe understood something the industry often forgets. Authenticity doesn't always come in a pretty package. It comes with scars. It comes with controversy. It comes with a voice that tells the truth, even when the truth is hard to hear. In an era overflowing with polished personas and auto-tuned cowboys, David Allan Coe's jagged honesty shines brighter than ever. He didn't play by the rules. He wrote his own. And in doing so, he became something rare in American music, unforgettable. Thanks for watching. If this journey through the life and legend of David Allan Coe gave you something to think about, hit that like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more deep dives into the legends who refuse to play it safe. Now it's your turn. Do you believe David Allan Coe deserves a place in the Country Music Hall of Fame? Can we separate the music from the controversy? Or is his legacy forever tied to the price of never backing down? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And until next time, keep the outlaw spirit alive. David Allan Coe, the outlaw who never apologized. David Allan Coe wasn't just a musician, he was a mirror held up to the face of country music, and he didn't care if people didn't like what they saw. While Nashville polished boots and censored lyrics, Coe kicked down the doors, guitar in one hand, a truth no one wanted to hear in the other. His songs weren't about chasing fame or airplay. They were about reality, in all its ugliness, honesty, and grit. He made room in the genre for those who never felt welcome. The bikers, the loners, the working men and women who punched clocks, swallowed pain, and craved music that didn't sugarcoat a damn thing. Legacy beyond the charts. No, he didn't win a shelf full of awards. No, he wasn't embraced by the institutions that gatekeep country greatness. But here's the truth. He didn't need to be, because his influence is louder than any industry recognition. His fingerprints are all over the sound of rebellion in American music, from outlaw country to southern rock, from metal crossovers to indie upstarts who just want to tell it like it is. His voice still lives in every barroom jukebox and roadside venue, in every song that dares to get a little messy, a little offensive, a little too real. The name that refused to disappear. David Allan Coe never played by Nashville's rules, and he sure as hell didn't care to. He didn't fit into country music. He broke it open, bent it to his will, and left his boot prints on the stage for the world to see. While the industry polished its image and swept its skeletons under the rug, Coe dragged his into the spotlight, unapologetic, unfiltered, and raw to the bone. His music didn't ask for approval. It demanded to be heard, no matter how uncomfortable it made you feel. He sang about pain, about prison, about loneliness and rage, about the parts of American life most artists were too scared or too censored to touch. And for that, he was exiled. Radio turned its back. Labels kept their distance, but the people who needed something real, they never left him. They couldn't. Because David Allan Coe sang for the ones who didn't belong, the outsiders, the rebels, the ones who never got a seat at the table. His name wasn't a phase, it wasn't a trend. It became a line in the dirt, one you either stood behind or dared to cross. Love him or hate him, one thing is certain. You can't erase David Allan Coe, because the dark corners of country music, the blood, the smoke, the dirt under the nails, they don't belong to the stars in suits. They belong to him. Your turn to weigh. And so now, the mic's yours. Was David Allan Coe a misunderstood genius who blazed a path too raw for the mainstream? Or did he cross lines that even country's roughest voices should have avoided? Was he the last true outlaw, or just too wild to ever be remembered without a fight? Let us know what you think. Drop your take in the comments. And if this deep dive into the life and legacy of country music's most unpredictable rebel made you think twice, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more raw, unfiltered stories from the back roads of American music. Because we're not here for perfect, we're here for the real. Until next time, keep the outlaw spirit alive. We'll see you on the next ride.